So Dave, I'm going to start slightly seriously because you are leaving us after many, many years. But when you look back, some moments that you're proud of.
Proud of?
Yeah.
I think it's difficult to nail just one particular standpoint. I think probably June 2011.
Tell me more.
The day we bought Bowater, because that was such a big event for us to go from essentially a loss-making business to a business that we had to integrate and then turn it into a profit-making business. But just to go through the emotions of that, and bear in mind the deal fell over on the Friday night. So we were there, Graham and I were there with the lawyers from 7 in the morning till 10 at night, and we didn't get the deal done. And I had to ring Germany that night, and they had the champagne on ice, and I went, we have not done the deal. So I went home and drank a bottle of wine. And then we actually did the deal on the following Monday. We drove down to Birmingham Monday night at midnight, met the Germans off the plane at 6 in the morning, and then went in and explained to everybody. So that was probably one of the proudest moments to actually get that deal done, because that was a game changer for the business and for everybody associated with it, to be fair.
But I'm interested in when you were going through that process, this kind of long time in the offices and trying to get the deal done, and I know your natural patience for these sorts of things. How did all that play out?
Not very well.
Tell me more.
There was an incident at the lawyers.
Speak up.
There was an incident at the lawyers where I have a very low boredom threshold, as everybody knows, and Graham was taking me out to get a coffee at the Costa every couple of hours, and it got that bad that I just opened my laptop and started watching Test cricket whilst the deal was going through, because I was bored. And I think it was Caroline who commented, she couldn't believe that I was doing it. She said, with all this going on, well, I said I've signed all the documentation, there's nothing else I can do. So I just sat there, but the cricket was far more interesting than sitting in the offices waiting for the deal to be done.
And Graham played a key role in keeping you full of coffee and
me
small walks. And,
yeah, Graham kept me sane, to be fair. He took me out and told me to behave and brought me back, and then took me out again and said, right, we'll go for some lunch now, we'll come back. So, yeah, I was getting a bit frustrated with it. And the episodes of meeting the Halo people in terms of doing the deal, we always did those during sort of a morning or an afternoon and never in the evening, because my opposite number, Joanne, was always very keen to go socially and have drinks with us. And I'd said to Graham, no, I think we'll stay away from that. So we always kept the meetings as sort of mid-morning to afternoons, and by the time 4 o'clock came, we said we had to leave for whatever reason. But yeah, it was an interesting time.
It was, and thank goodness you stuck with it. Or Graham did anyway. That's good. Obviously, when I was being interviewed by yourself, you put a lot of focus on the importance of fitting into the existing board, and you have a slightly, I think, quite unique approach to one part of that interview process, which you could perhaps talk about, and then if I share my experience of how it was for me.
Okay, yeah, the unique experience is you come for your first interview, and that's just a general get to know you. You come for a second interview and we give you a theme to talk about, and then we also transition you to meet some of the other people within the organisation. And then when you've gone, we do a sort of recce and see what we think of you, so we get different opinions. And then if you make it to the last two, then basically we take you out for dinner. And one of us doesn't drink. Hopefully we encourage you to relax and have a few drinks with us in a social environment, and just enjoy the evening. and we generally find that we can find the sort of values and the ethos, and we get a very honest sort of response from people, because most of the time they've had a few.
Yeah, and it didn't quite play out that way for me, did it? Because I'd been warned by the agency. I said, look, this is what they do, and get ready for it. You know, they're going to try and get a bit of drink in you and see how you respond. I remember we went to a restaurant in Burnley. The other board directors were there. So I was a little bit alert to it, and I have my own 2-drink rule, as Jess knows. And we had a nice night and everything else. And actually, I had 2 drinks. And then I heard the board starting to talk amongst themselves a little bit. So I'm getting myself ready, because we're clearly moving on, and I need to be ready, because it's going to get a bit more dangerous. And actually, you were ordering me a taxi. I was leaving at that point. And I kind of thought things had gone disastrously wrong, because they didn't even want to get me drunk. So that was a bit of a shock to the system. And then, of course, we still didn't have a marketing director at that point, and that probably was a little bit more true to the method that you normally use.
Yeah, well, even before that, I think with Graham, when I recruited Graham, that one was interesting, because I think he reported back to Pam, his wife. He came to the door after the evening of everything, and she said, "You're drunk." How did it go? And he went, "Don't know. Must have been a good night." But no. Dawn's was slightly different, because we held that in Manchester, because Dawnie was coming up. She was up for a wedding. You hadn't started, but you came. No. You came for the dinner, and we had it in Wings, in the Chinese in Manchester, and we were all very polite and very prim and proper. And Dawn went through it, and then had to leave, and we got. Young Scott, who works in the warehouse, we got him to drive her back to look after her, make sure she wasn't left on her own. And then we went from the expensive wine to the cheap gut rot wine, and then proceeded to have a few more wines, and then a few more wines, and then a few more wines.
And I was more worried about that than I had been my own, because there was me, I was leaving Velux, I was working my notice, I had a contract with VEKA, but I'd said an awful lot more that night than I'd said on the night of my interview. That could have been seen as controversial. So I do recall waking up that next morning slightly poorly and a little bit worried. And then the phone call came from you at about...
I phoned to apologise for our behaviour.
Yeah, 9:30 in the morning. I thought, here's the call I'm expecting. And as you said, it was an apology about the behaviour, and it was don't worry, it's not always like this. And I was a little bit disappointed, because we'd had a cracking night. It had been really, really good. So that might be something I try and keep going with in the future, with a 2-drink rule, of course, but there we are. Drinks kind of around us quite a lot in some of these stories. I think you've told me in the past about a particular meeting you went to very early on in Germany, where perhaps the next day, when you needed to concentrate quite hard, you weren't at your best, and it was noticed.
It was my first trip in December '94 to Germany. It was the first smart meeting that they set up for the operations team. So I was working as the operations manager. I went with my then boss, John Fitzsimmons, who was the ops director. Landed at the hotel, which was in Voorhelm, which is just up the road from the Vita. And it was about 4 o'clock. And there was 2 German guys who I'd never met before, but they were drinking beers, and they were drinking a schnapps. And the schnapps, I'll never forget it, because we all have this. We all have one drink that we never drink again. It was called Aquavit. Aquavit. And it's just like petrol in a small glass. And if you think 4:30 I was in the hotel, 9 o'clock I was in bed. Completely and utterly gone. Following morning, got up. The lady of the hotel who owned it, Frau Witte, bless her, she would have been about 80. She always used to make you have an egg for breakfast, a boiled egg. And eggs and beer and things didn't go down too well. So I had that and some cornflakes and went into work. And we went into the boardroom, and they kicked off the meeting, and I had an interpreter because it was all in German, so I had Beata Conson by the side of me. My boss, John Fitzsimmons, had big, thick rimmed glasses on, and he was feeling dog rough. But he was sort of sat there like that. And I'm looking, I'm thinking, he's got that thick glasses on. I can't tell whether his eyes are open or not, but he was definitely asleep. So I'm thinking, oh, it's a bit warm in here. So I was thinking, oh, it's getting very warm in here, better go. So I went out, bumped into this lady, who later I found out was Mrs. Lauman, so Mr. Lauman's wife. And I'm going, toilet and bitter, down there. Went there, absolutely threw up, absolutely ill as hell. Composed myself, came back, obviously very flush, sat down, and Fitzsimmons, who was my boss then, just turned around to me, looked at me and said, everybody knows where you've been, son. Everybody knows you've been ill. Carry on. I just wanted to go home. I was just in a right mess. God, it was horrible. But those were the days when they just frequently drank.
It was normal.
Yeah.
And was it those kinds of experiences that meant that when Independent Network was on tour many years later, you decided to change the approach to the purchase of, in inverted commas, alcoholic drinks?
Absolutely, yeah. That's when it became respectable.
So everybody else suffered as a result of that. So
only the people who drank red wine.
okay, what was the idea there? What was the...
The idea was to get the free drinks for the hotel, because the hotel bar was going to be closed after we'd come back from dinner. And went around the supermarket, got Graham to pay for it, which is always a good idea for the FD to pay for it and put it on his credit card. And then obviously everybody was very disappointed with the red wine. But it was alcoholic free, but I didn't realise it because I didn't read the label.
It was cheap though, wasn't it?
It was very cheap. It was €2. €2.
So now we kind of make the connection around that. One of the things I do remember when I first met you, Dave, was the fact that you called me Bud. And I remember going home at the end of this interview and thinking, in fact, not thinking, saying, you know what, that guy really liked me. You know, I'm his friend. Obviously, my illusions were shattered, well, pretty much once I saw you interact with everybody else in the world. So where does the old Bud approach come from? Bud.
It's just strategic play. Because when we were a small business pre-acquisition of Halo, we had about 130, 140 staff working there, and I knew everybody, knew something about them, knew something about the families, the kids, football teams, anything like that, and so you could always have that interaction with people. But when it got to 400, I can't remember 400 names. So I introduced this system where if it was a bloke, I'd call him Bud. And so it was not meant to be impersonal, but it was a way of getting round forgetting people's names. So if I could remember your name, I'll call at you, and if I can't, then are you all right, Bud? How are we doing? Yeah. And that was my strategy. I'm just slightly worried you were interviewing me and you didn't remember my name, but you know, I get the point. And the other big thing, I mean, you know, we haven't always had easy times over the 4 years. Some things haven't gone our way as a business along the way. Some of those I've been at the kind of centre of, and I probably had times where I thought, oh right, that wasn't great, and that's not a good outcome. And you know, typically your response to that is what? They're just situations. Situations that we get ourselves into. Don't become emotionally involved with it. And just, it is what it is. It is what it is. Yeah. Just deal with it. Yeah. Yeah. Refreshing. It is refreshing. Because I'm probably pinning myself to a wall, kind of beating myself up, and never take it personal. And my boss is just there, kind of going, you know what? Just a situation. That's all it is. Just go, keep going. So no, I appreciate that. We might as well continue on the theme of little quotes and the like, and onwards and upwards. Big one of yours as well. Is this a hope for Man United in the future, or what's the driver behind that? It's just my mantra. It's just the way that I feel about things. You can surround yourself with negativity, and I always look for the positive side in everything. And you know. You leave somebody with a positive note, they'll remember it. You leave them with a negative note, they'll definitely remember it. So from my point of view, it's just the way I'm wired, I think. Okay. Prior to probably focusing on your career, you're into a certain type of martial art, do we call it? Yes.
Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, I used to train in Taekwondo, which is Korean karate, which is now a sport in the Olympics. And I trained for 7 years, from 16 right the way through to 23. And managed to get to second dan black belt, my own club. Between two of us, my friend and myself, we used to run it as a sort of social thing, but we were training kids, so we had about 52 kids training twice a week and teaching them sort of to be more confident, but also, you know, disciplines and things like that. So it was good fun. It was really, really good fun. So used to enjoy that. We used to fight all over the country. Used to take the kids everywhere and do exhibitions and things like that and tournaments. So.
And the skills and disciplines that it taught you in terms of you being this black belt, have you ever used those at work at all?
I've never used. No, I'm not a violent person at all. No.
Have you ever been tempted to use them at work?
No, never.
Okay.
No, never.
Okay. Do you not class social events as work when it comes to possibly using those skills to help remove items off the top of people's heads?
Ah, okay. Somebody's mentioned something about that, yeah. I used to have a party trick, yeah.
Yeah? Tell me more.
I can do a spinning kick and take something off your head without hitting your head, yeah.
You can or you could?
No, I could. I don't think my legs will do that now. But,
Thank you.
I used to do that.
Please do that one. Just,
yeah. I keep threatening my son-in-law with it, yeah.
Okay. For other reasons?
Yeah.
Just as a general kind of keep
It'll just be a low blow for him.
Keep him on track along the way. Also, I mean, I was probably slightly envious at the time. I heard at one point yourself and Paul Armstrong were heading across to the US to look at our business across the US because of some potential opportunities, you know, to kind of follow some of the things they were doing product-wise. That was a nice planned visit. Didn't happen in the end. What's your take on why that didn't happen, Dave?
I was ill.
You were ill?
Yes.
How long were you ill for, Dave?
A few days. A digestive problem.
Okay. Did you self-certify, or were you seen by a doctor? Or?
I can't recall.
Okay. I believe there were some changes to flight arrangements, that the 15-hour flight was possibly going to be 36 hours. Not a factor?
No, not at all. Not at all. No. We didn't know about those flight changes because I actually phoned Paul of the morning that we were due to fly and explained my situation from the location that I was in, that I could not get there.
Yeah.
And even though he flew out there on the 8-hour flight, he had a problem getting back, yeah, which was 36 hours, yeah, it was a problem.
But you didn't know anything about that?
No, genuinely I didn't, no, honestly. It wasn't good planning.
Okay. Why do people think you did?
I don't know. Generally, it wasn't.
No. Okay, you're just generally unwell.
I was very unwell. Yeah.
Jan's cooking, or your own cooking, or what was the?
I can't recall, but it was pretty embarrassing. Yeah.
And when you are retiring, because you are, what's going to change at home?
Just to see Jan, the kids, Pops, more frequently. Probably cook more at home.
Cook more at home?
Cook more, yeah.
As in you'll take the lead?
I do at weekends, yeah.
Yeah, but you're going to take over?
Probably, yeah.
Go on, why?
Because I enjoy cooking.
Uh-huh.
Generally.
I make the same claim, but I get told that's just a microwave that does 3 minutes.
No. All from raw ingredients, everything. Yeah. So one of my passions is to do that. One of my other passions is learning to play the piano, and I have piano lessons on a Friday lunchtime. So I'll have more time to perfect it.
Right.
And just spending more time with the kids and travelling. Assuming we'll be able to travel at some point in the future.
So dinner parties at Dave's house with him kicking apples off the top of your head and...
Come dine with me, yeah.
Come down with me, okay. Very nice, very nice. So when you do kind of look back on your time at VEKA, what will be kind of the overarching memories and thoughts you have about that period of your life, Dave?
26 years working for one business, it's an absolute blast. I wouldn't change anything or any of the people I've ever worked with. I just think I love the people. That's probably the biggest thing that I'll miss.
And we'll miss you too. We will. And on that note, one of the things you talk about quite a lot when you're a very modest man, you're a very proud man, you back people along the way. And sometimes when we ask you, well, so how do you do some of these things, you tend to tell us that you're just Dave. Why do you tell us you're just Dave?
I think just because that's who I am. I'm no different from anybody else. I don't know. I'm just trying to be an authentic, normal person. That's all I am, a normal Joe. No different from anybody else. But I've been very lucky. Lucky to lead the business. Lucky to work with all you guys. Lucky to work with people who are aligned in the same way of thinking that I am and want to succeed and want to improve. And that's what's important. That's what you get out of bed for.
And obviously, that's a way that I would want to be. I'd want to be able to be that similar person, not the same person, of course. And I know you're going to help me kind of in the weeks ahead to before you head out at Christmas and kind of leave us all to it. But any other tips for me?
Just be you. Just be you. Just be that authentic person you are, and just be you. And have a smile on your face and enjoy every moment, because it goes quick. So 26 years does go quick, but enjoy every moment. I don't regret anything. Even the tough things that we've been through, they're all just part of life. And there's always something good going to happen.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
Cheers, bud.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Should we just leave it there?